Good afternoon. I'm Father David. Thank you for joining me today for Disciple Time as we're focusing on the intercession of angels. Now, sometimes when we think all hope is lost, all it takes really is an honest appeal to God and everything changes. And I recall back when my wife was in critical condition and the doctors in 3 states could not diagnose what was wrong with her. So I was scheduled to report to my seminary to take some exams and to give some presentations. Yet my wife was being called by the hospital. They wanted to admit her, and she was getting weaker and weaker. And I had been praying, but this time, knowing that the seminary wanted me to leave the state and come back, I begged for supernatural intervention like I never had before. And the church even gathered around my wife. They prayed with her. They gave her a prayer shawl. I mean, it was serious. The thing was, had I gone to the seminary, my wife would have never checked herself into the hospital because our kids were at home. And I think to this day that probably she wouldn't have made it through that period. And so, we made this strong appeal to God. And that night, just by chance, Hurricane Michael, which had the same name of an archangel, swept through Florida. It knocked down trees and it forced road closures, and the seminary called and basically canceled all the classes. And that enabled me to stay home and with the kids. And so Lael felt comfortable enough to admit herself into the hospital, which she really needed to do. And while she was in the hospital, her sister, a nurse, diagnosed her illness from across the country, and so the doctor there tried the diagnosis of her sister, who was a nurse, and, lo and behold, it happened to be what the problem was, and so there was this massive turnaround in her health, which was really a godsend at that time, and I just kind of always accredit that to God's work through her sister, through that Hurricane Michael, and it kind of made me wonder, do you ever wonder if angels are at work answering your prayers? I personally think they are. And, even if you go back several thousand years, we have this beautiful biblical account, right, in 2 Kings of just this kind of activity. So there was this king of Assyria. His name was Sennacherib, and he had sent envoys to Hezekiah with a pretty offensive message. And the message was this, coming out of 2 Kings chapter 19, verses 10 to 11. Do not let your God in whom you trust deceive you by promising that Jerusalem will not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Behold, you have heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all lands, devoting them to destruction. And shall you be delivered? And so King Sennacherib, and by the way, the name Sennacherib literally means sin has replaced brotherhood. That's what the name means. Sin has replaced brotherhood. And so this king is literally calling God out. And he goes on to say, no nation's gods have been able to stand against the wrath of the Assyrian kings and their armies. So basically, the Assyrian king and their armies were like the Borg in Star Trek. I don't know if you ever saw that, but he was basically saying resistance is futile, give up while you can. But then Sennacherib did not know the power of the living God, who is above all the other gods and idols of the world. And so what does Hezekiah do? Well, he appeals to God. And so we read in 2 Kings chapter 19, verses 15 through 16, and Hezekiah prayed before the Lord and said, O Lord, the God of Israel, enthroned above the cherubim is another word for angel, you are the God, you alone, of all the kingdoms of the earth. You have made heaven and earth. Incline your ear, O Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, O Lord, and see, and hear the words of Sennacherib, which he has sent to mock the living God. And I love the appeal that God will open his eyes and see, and open his ears and hear, because this was serious. And so what is God's response? Well, if we ever doubted the existence of angels, we need to listen up, because God not only hears Hezekiah's prayers, but he also responds to Hezekiah's appeal in a very mighty way. And so we read in 2 Kings 19:35 through 36, and that night the angel of the Lord went out and struck down 185,000 in the camp of the Assyrians. And when the people arose early in the morning, behold, these were all dead bodies. Then Sennacherib, king of Israel, departed and went home and lived in Nineveh. And if you ever have pictures of this in one of your old school Bibles, it always shows the angel and a big storm behind him. I thought that was kind of really interesting because who knows how the angel manifested to do what the Bible says the angel did, right? Was it by natural means? Was it a storm? I mean, we don't know. Was it a series of tornadoes that ripped through there? Was it fire? Was it some supernatural phenomena? Is this supposed to even be taken literally, right? Who knows? I don't know the answer to any of those questions. All I know is that there was a threat made as an army stood ready to crush Israel. King Hezekiah then goes to the living God in serious prayer, and the next day the army is destroyed and the king of the Assyrian army is gone. And we have this account which clearly gives credit to God and his angels in the Bible. And so, what is the application for today? I think it's this. When the circumstances of life seem overwhelming, go to God and seek supernatural intercession. Because I think what we're going to find is God is ready to answer our prayers in ways that maybe we don't even understand he's capable of answering them, right? So thank you for joining me today as we've looked at concerning the intercession of angels. I hope you have a blessed week.